Since the first documentary that we released, a lot of people said, well, hey, just prove it. Why don't you just go into the wilderness, just capture a bird, pluck its feathers, show us the insides. Why don't you prove that birds aren't real? Well, that's why we're making this documentary. It's because we have proof. Evidence has surfaced where people have taken drone prototypes. People have taken birds, taken all their feathers off, and just revealed the electronics underneath. The evidence is out there. Most humans just don't want to look past it. They want to believe what they were taught growing up. But we're here to say, believe something new. Change your ways. Go back from the old ways of doing things, the old belief system that you had, and change that belief system. Change the person that you were. Join us and become a bird truther.
What's really interesting is that there are, a lot of people out there fighting the good fight, and they're figuring out ways to get around the programming of these bird drones. And there's a video of somebody who has figured out how to kind of override the bird system.
What you do is you take the beak, you put it into the ground, draw a straight line with your finger, and then the bird will just decommission itself.
I remember when I found out about taking a screenshot with an iPhone, right? You have to push certain buttons the right way. He actually figured out how to do a factory reset on this bird drone.
Thinking that an animal would respond in this way is absolutely ridiculous, but the fact that he has kind of hacked this system and done an override for the bird, I'm just glad that there are some people out there that are figuring this out.
An average guy found a glitch that simple. They really need to up their game if they're gonna fool us into believing that these birds are real.
There's a lot of just incredible feats that we can see in the animal world. A cheetah can run really, really fast. A flea can jump pretty far, right?
Normal animals can do normal animal things. Cows will moo and then they'll munch on some grass. But have you ever seen a cow do a backflip?
Name an animal that does a backflip naturally? Anything? Let me give you some options. Buffalo? I don't think so. Think about it. How disturbed would you be if you saw a buffalo doing a backflip just out in the middle of the field, just chilling, all of a sudden, whoop? It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
There's a video out there of a bird doing a backflip, which is clearly the person behind the bird, the government worker who was controlling the bird. He was wanting to show off one day and he decided to have his government drone start doing backflips. And we've caught on to you, Mr. Government Bird Drone Worker. We know what you're up to.
Boston Dynamics robot dogs do the same thing. So 4-legged robots, 2-legged robots, like that, they can do backflips. Birds can't.
So we've talked before about how different birds have different purposes, right? The purposes of hummingbirds is attack drones. The purpose of owls is night surveillance. Then came along the woodpecker. And this bird revolutionized the drone industry. This bird was able to do things that the government wanted it to do. It was able to drill holes into trees. Since the success of the woodpecker program, the government has been able to take that technology to the next level.
What's interesting is that the bird technology is not that different from the technology that we'd have. You would think that you would never see a bird that could drill, but we've actually caught evidence of that. And we don't know if they're gonna be using these things for construction or if they're moving into different spheres, but there are drill owls. Drowls.
We actually have cases throughout history where people have either had the idea themselves or been forced into this work of trying to emulate birds for the government. Da Vinci did a lot of really wonderful original work, and then there was a period of his life, a very little known period of his life, where he actually was imprisoned and was forced to draw this. Now, the government doesn't want you to see this, but just take a look. That's a Da Vinci drawing there while he was imprisoned by the government. What does it look like to you? They've been working on it for a while.
You might have seen this picture that exists of pigeons meeting at a restaurant for an obvious clandestine conversation. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie where government operatives are meeting in public. They do it so that their noise will be muffled, they can't be parabolically recorded. So these birds are clearly doing the same thing, meeting in a public space at a restaurant where no one's gonna think twice about it.
This picture worries me particularly because it just shows how people just aren't getting it. The truth is right in front of them. This is the government, literally their equivalent of doing a Zoom call with these birds out in the open. People can see this and they're just not getting it.
Why would these birds be sitting at a human table? It's for humans. Turns out, it was being used by humans.
Back in the early days of the BIRD program, the Bureaucratic Intelligence Reconnaissance Drone program, The government was testing out different methods of how they wanted to make these birds fly. Some of them thought of different propulsion methods. There was the helicopter method, there was the jet propulsion method, and eventually they ended up with the wing method.
Most people would look at this photo and say that they see 4 security cameras. I see 5.
It's common for industries to come out with new items. They call them the drops. You know, the new iPhone will drop, or the new line of shoes will drop, or Gucci will have their new bag drop. Well, there's been a new bird drop.
In tech companies, the products they come up with, it seems like every few years they have a new design, new colors, a sleeker look, and these kinds of updates are just fun. They're fun for the consumer, fun for the creator. So the government has actually eased protocol on the bird drone program so that the tech engineers can actually have fun creating the drones, come up with new sleek designs, new colors and whatnot. And apparently it has led to an increase in workplace satisfaction for these government workers.
When the clock struck midnight on January 1st, the year 2000, there was a very specific type of computer that did crash.
There's no other reason why an entire flock of birds would fall out of the sky all at one moment. It's because they are running on the same operating system. Think about when the Wi-Fi goes out or the electricity goes out, there's a blackout. It's just this moment where all of the technological things stop working at the same time. And that's what we're seeing in this. You know, these birds are wiped out all in one moment. They have to take time to reboot. That's not something that would happen if they were animals with flesh and blood.
One of the crazier things that we're starting to see that have come out in recent years is that the government is fusing together its bird drone technology and its infrared camera technology. It's fusing all of this technology together to create an ultra camera.
They're modular, they can work with each other.
They would have never done in the 70s, they would have never done that in the 80s, people would have caught on, but they're doing it nowadays and nobody notices.
The government is making these drones in such prolific numbers, they don't even really care anymore about keeping track of inventory. There's one right here that was never even put into commission. It just fell off the truck somewhere, still in its packaging, and they just left it.
I'm fairly certain that woodpeckers use a proprietary form of Morse code that changes daily. Plus, they drill holes in trees to plant surveillance equipment, and that's why I'm anti-tree as well. Any real animal that would repeatedly bash its head into a tree would have brain damage.
I went to an aviary with my family once, and I saw the sign that said that penguins are built to swim. And at first I kind of looked at that, but then I did a double take and I realized, oh my gosh, they have it written here clear as day. Penguins are not born to swim. Penguins are built to swim. What other things can you build? Robots.
Robots are built not to make mistakes. Humans are not robots, and we do make mistakes. We've all had tech that just goes haywire occasionally, and sometimes it's a coding issue. I know there were some issues with facial recognition recently as that's been brought around. This bird here is trying to use facial recognition on this even less real bird. And as it tries to transfer technology here, you can see with the little tongue like that, it doesn't work, and the bird doesn't know what to do, because you know why? Because it doesn't have a brain, because it's a robot.
You know, imagine you have an RC car, right, and you rev it really quickly, and you put it right on the ground, it zooms right off. Try doing that with an animal. Imagine a sloth, for example. You put that on the ground, it's not gonna zoom away. This is clearly an example of technology at work, not an animal. No animal would do this unless it had technology built inside of it.
Did you know that mail trucks have their own gas stations? You probably didn't know that the government has specific gas stations for government property. You've probably never seen a mail truck at a regular gas station. Well, a rare photo surfaced of gas-powered models of birds before they all went electric, and that photo was leaked. There are certain gas stations that the government is using to power these gas-powered drones, and that's why gas prices fluctuate, is because sometimes they bring back these old models when they're recycling out the new ones, and then sometimes they recycle out the new ones with the new electric models, and that's why gas prices will fluctuate up and down so much, is because some of these bird models have to use gas.
So people get all worked up and they're like, okay, sure, if birds aren't real, show me, prove it, right? They say just grab one and prove it. Well, here's the deal, that doesn't work out very well. A couple months ago, I found a bird I was actually able to get my hands on. I found a chicken that was near a bridal expo. I grabbed that chicken by the neck and I ran into that bridal expo. I was starting to pull feathers off. I was trying to show people. I was like, if you're gonna get married, you're gonna have kids, they need to know the truth. And they kicked me out. I didn't even get to show them what was really going on.
So I was following a government worker one day, which is something I like to do, and he was acting strange. So I followed him out. He didn't go to work, he went to a pier, and on the kind of wooden guardrail of the pier, he looked around, he took out a marker. He wrote something down, he looked up to make sure nothing was there, and then he left. So I decided to go see what he wrote, and this is what I saw.
If you've ever seen Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, it paints a pretty good picture of what can happen when you become an enemy of the government.
A little while back, we were holding a convention for bird truthers in the city, and when we showed up, there were hundreds and hundreds of birds in the parking lot. I had to take out my phone and record it so that people would believe me, but we were not able to hold the convention that day. And that's when I realized that they know that we know that they know that we're onto them.
So there's some really crazy high-tech new models of birds that can camouflage in ways you wouldn't believe. You can walk right by them, you wouldn't see a thing.
A lot of times, if you go out, you can look and you can see the birds flying over your head. You can see the birds watching you from the trees. You can see the birds sitting on the power lines watching your car as you drive by. But these newer models, with this camouflage technology, you're never gonna know when you're being watched or when you're not.
In nature, we see camouflage in things, and you see it, you're like, oh, that's cute. It's pretending to be. This is cloaking technology. Where is it? I see eyeballs, and then all I have is this unnerving feeling that there's something else in there.
I have this friend who lives in China, and one day I called them up and I was talking to them about the movement. I was explaining to them that birds aren't real, and so they decided to do a little bit of research for themselves because they have a pet parrot. So they start researching on their computer all of the facts that birds aren't real, and then they decided to go up and get a snack in the kitchen. Well, by the time that they got back, their parrot had done this to their computer. It just goes to show that even the pets that we love the most won't allow us to get away with things that the government doesn't want us to get away with.
We know the police train animals, right, for police work. Dogs, right? And we honor those dogs and the service they provide. Tell me what other animals police have trained to do police work. It's gotta be something that can bite, right? Something with claws, something. Check this out, ducks. Police ducks. The only reason the ducks are in this vehicle is because it's a government-owned vehicle. Think that guy was arresting the ducks? No, he was giving them a ride to their next post.
2 giraffes in the back of a cop car wouldn't make much sense, right? That'd raise an eyebrow. Birds, on the other hand, it does make sense for them to be in government vehicles. They are government tech.
Most birds will use their feet to charge their internal batteries. It's called an inductive charging coil. There are places in the world where these power lines aren't as common.
And so for the birds, drones that have to cover large distances, they actually equip them with solar panels so they can stay up high and be charging while they fly.
One time, a couple bird truthers were up in Alaska and they figured out how to capture a couple of these golden eagles. And they discovered something very interesting. They discovered that since these golden eagles don't charge on power lines, the government has installed solar panels on their backs to charge. It makes sense because a lot of times these golden eagles, they'll fly way up higher than humans are able to see, that we'll never see the tops of their backs. But once you're able to capture a golden eagle, that's when you know the truth.
You know, people comment and they say, show us the evidence. There's not really, you guys are crazy, there's no evidence for this. And like, what more do you want? We have videos, we have pictures, we have testimonials. You know, is there nothing that we could give you that would make you believe at this point? Like, you gotta just adjust your expectations here and accept reality. We're giving it to you. This is the evidence.
So you can actually tell that some of the technology that's been used in the bird drones is similar to what the government uses in spy planes, stealth planes. Some of the higher performance models of bird do the exact same maneuvers that, for example, the U-2 bomber can do.
You've heard parrots repeat almost any phrase that they're taught. But have you ever heard a parrot singing a Billboard Top 40 song? You never will, because those songs are copyrighted.
There is a video that exists, it's some really good evidence. There's these 3 owls and one of them has an antenna sticking out of it and the other ones are clearly trying to warn it. But we were already recording and we caught it on video.
Cleverness only goes so far. The government has actually gotten kind of lazy in their wording with these birds. Some of the bird names, for example, off the top of my head, what's the most illegal bird to kill in America? The bald eagle. Yeah, so bald eagle, illegal. I think they actually just did a little wordplay there. They got the word eagle out of the word illegal.
The mockingbird was just invented so that the government can make fun of us.
Birds have been observed being able to detect worms in the ground by their vibrations. I just want to say, if you try to think about anything in the natural world, does that make sense? You go out and stick your face down on the ground. Tell me if you can feel the worms wiggling. This is obviously some type of advanced ground penetrating radar or maybe sonar of some kind that allows them to be able to detect these worms. These worms aren't knocking around making a whole lot of noise down there. This is clearly some sort of advanced ground penetrating radar installed in these birds that enables them to do something so incredible.
So The Raven, the classic poem by Edgar Allan Poe. In it you have a bird who is warning the protagonist, the narrator of the poem, with human words, a language that, as far as I know, birds do not speak and never have, but robots are able to speak that language. And specifically, it repeats this phrase, nevermore, nevermore, nevermore. So we know that Edgar Allan Poe was in. He was a bird truther, and he was trying to get the truth out, but back in the day, you couldn't be obvious about it. You had to encode it in literature. You know, you watch movies that were made in the 70s, you read books, and it's all in there. He was telling us that there were never birds. It was saying nevermore, nevermore. But we just weren't getting the message.
So anytime I go camping, early in the morning, 5, 6 a.m., I hear a lot of bird song. What this actually is, it's occurring at the shift change. It's the birds debriefing, relaying the information they observed overnight to the new watch.
Think about what sound geese make. Can you think of anything else that makes that sound that's not an animal? If you go to the official CIA Instagram, it doesn't take long to find the subtle bird hints that they've hidden all throughout it, but it's a lot more obvious if you go to their Twitter page. Twitter.
The CIA made a post featuring a bird saying that they are watching us like a hawk. Coincidence?
The government, through the birds, has been bullying people into silence for a very long time, and people were afraid to come out with their evidence. But as the movement has gained momentum and progressed, people are willing now to occasionally come out and show the drones that they found back in the 70s. These early models that we can compare to today's birds and see how there have been continual iterations of these bird drones with advancing technology.
We've actually been sent dozens of photos that show prototype birds in construction, having been caught on test flight. Some of them have actually been taken straight from a defunct factory. These things get left behind from time to time. So wherever the government isn't careful, there's someone out there cleaning up the mess, and those people are sending this information to us. So we have all kinds of proof to back the idea that these birds are built.
It's always hard for humans to accept the evidence and a change in belief. You know, like there was a time where we thought the Earth was the center of the universe and the sun revolved around us, you know? Before that, we thought the Earth was flat. You know, it's difficult to accept a change in these ideologies, but it's so important, because if we don't do this, there's no telling what kinds of birds they'll make in the future.
I've been asked over and over, what proof do you have? People think this is a massive false conspiracy theory. I've got access to dozens and dozens of pictures and have firsthand handled prototype birds. These things are real, physical proof of this phenomenon. What else could you want to understand what I'm saying? I have proof.
We would love to be able to show you in person, right? We'd love to be able to take these things to your house. The only people with those kind of numbers are the birds. They're the only ones who are coming around visiting your house individually. But we have pictures. We have video evidence. I mean, I don't understand what else you expect us to do. If we're showing you this, and you still say, well, but give me proof, what kind of proof are you looking for?
So for all of you who are watching this video, boys and girls of all ages, just know, Santa Claus isn't the only one watching you.